Well, raise your hand if your child has struggled with virtual learning over the past year. You are far from alone with those frustrations.
And tonight, News 4 is learning some students have never logged on at all, and some are getting shockingly low grades and passing. Here's News 4 investigator Chris Nagus.
In many districts around the region, schools have been quieter than a library this year. Empty playgrounds and classrooms, with kids logging on from home, but there's a problem, and it's no secret to teachers.
Are you seeing kids that are not logging on at all?
That has been a common occurrence. I've had several students who have been on my roster since the beginning of school in August who I still haven't seen.
This high school teacher wanted their identity concealed, but spoke openly about an issue with virtual learning in St. Louis public schools.
Are the majority of your students struggling with this format?
Very much so.
It's not a unique experience. This middle school teacher in the same district sees it every day.
I know on my side of the hallway, probably 4 or 5 students regularly not attending classes at any given time, and that's per class.
What's going to happen with these kids?
Grading has been a bit of an issue recently. We had a staff meeting a couple weeks ago that basically we were told, hey, you should give these kids 50% even if they didn't turn the work in.
But it's not just an issue in the city. More rural districts like Wright City have also experienced challenges. A district that never stopped in-person learning, but did offer a virtual option.
At about the midpoint of the first semester, we really started honing in on really 2 categories of students, those that just weren't succeeding but were engaging, and then, a significant number of students that we had no engagement from.
Had no clue where they were.
Correct.
Superintendent Chris Berger says parents of missing online students were sent this letter at the end of the first semester, which required them to enroll their child in seated instruction unless they could provide a documented medical vulnerability. Failure to do so would result in a hotline call to the state for educational neglect.
It was successful. It created a ton of work for us, but it did get parents to engage.
Are there still some students, though, that the message didn't sink in? Do you still have a percentage or part of the student population that they're just not engaging at all?
Well, certainly 1 is too much, but we did get that down to less than 3 per building.
Another issue, grades, and what they really mean for some students this year.
We were encouraged very heavily to try and boost all F's and D's to C's.
Both of these teachers say flexibility has been encouraged. This teacher sent this grading scale to News 4 and claims it's offered inside the St. Louis Public Schools online gradebook as a virtual option. It shows a B as low as 64%, a C at 40%, and a D as low as 17%.
As I was looking around, I sort of stumbled upon that, and it said the virtual performance grading scale. And it was something I had never seen before in my prior years teaching.
Do you believe some teachers are using that scale?
From what I've heard, I think some are.
According to a district spokesperson, individual principals may have made adjustments to the grading scale as a result of the pandemic, but the district did not change the grading scale. But these teachers say flexibility has been promoted, and it leads them to worry about next year.
Everything builds on the grade level before.
Right now, we know that some kids are thriving in an online environment. We know that some kids are not.
Dr. Margie Van Dieven is the commissioner at the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. If there is a student that's not showing up day to day, day after day virtually, should that student be held back? Should they be forced to repeat that grade level?
There's a lot of questions about that right now that are taking place. In the spring, we were very clear in saying we believe that students should be somewhat held harmless to this. It was a very unique, unusual circumstance. But boy, after a whole year of this, that diploma needs to mean something. For us, what we've known in the past is that kids who attend school typically do better.
But even with an in-person option, only 26% of St. Louis Public Schools middle and high school students choose that option. 74% remain at home. Of those virtual students, the district claims 75 to 82% log on regularly, which means nearly 1 out of 4 do not. In the Parkway District, 37% of high school students have chosen virtual versus in-person. In districts like Hazelwood, 100% of students remain virtual. High school students won't have the option to return in person until the week of April 12th.
Do you think that next school year we'll see a record number of kids repeating grades?
You know, I think it's too early to say. That's one of the things that we're trying to get a better understanding of is really where are our students.
And the state will soon get a better understanding. They still plan to have a spring assessment. That's a way to gauge where students are at with their learning. It was skipped last year because of the pandemic. The results will not be used against school districts this year, but it will provide eye-opening data to the state showing if students are truly prepared to move to the next level. Chris Nagus, News 4 investigates.